The best of rankings, it was the worst of rankings. It was a ranking of wisdom, it was a ranking of foolishness. This is my ranking of Charles Dickens novels. My name is Jim, this is my channel, books, reading and stuff. Having finished Nicholas Nickleby this month, I have finally finished all of Dickens' finished novels. I haven't read The Mystery of Edwin Drood, which was the novel he was writing when he died. So this is a ranking of his 14 completed novels. All of Dickens' novels I rated 4 or 5 stars, so even the one I've ranked the lowest is still a good novel, in my opinion. If you want a more thorough ranking and rating of Dickens' novels, you can look at Katie Lumsden's tier ranking of Dickens novels, where she looks in great depth at all of the novels. I will put a link to her video in the show notes below, and she has read each of Dickens novels at least 3 times, and with our mutual friend she's read it 8 times, so she's got more knowledge about Dickens than I have. I've read each of these novels once, apart from A Tale of Two Cities, which I read twice, although the first time was in school, so I don't think that really counts because that was so long ago. And without further ado, here's my ranking, starting with Last, number 14. Last, at number 14, I put Dickens' second novel, Oliver Twist. This, for me, was the last because I didn't feel Oliver was a very well-developed character. He didn't feel like a real boy. He felt more like a mouthpiece for Dickens to talk about social deprivation. There was also a very strong anti-Semitic element with the caricature of Fagin, who's often just referred to as the Jew who's leading these pickpockets. There was some rather puerile humour as well when the pickpockets, along with Artful Dodger, there was Master Bates, which I'm sure Dickens was laughing at the time, but it just seemed a bit puerile to me. Nancy was a good character, but I didn't think Oliver Twist had many other redeeming features, and it's my least favourite of Dickens' novels. 13, I have Martin Chuzzlewit, the only one of Dickens' novels that had any action in the United States, hence the Stars and Stripes on the cover. I didn't think this had the strongest of stories. There was some nice satire, particularly in the American section, but it's not the most memorable of his novels. 12, Hard Times. This is one of his shorter novels. This was set in Northern England, unusually, and it was looking at the perils of industrialization. 11, I have Dickens' bestseller, A Tale of Two Cities, and this is also the first Dickens novel I experienced. I read this in school, which put me off Dickens for a very long time. It has one of Dickens' best plots, but there is very little humour in it. It's one of 2 Dickens novels that's set in historic times, and it has the great opening. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, etc. But for me, it's not one of my highly ranked Dickens novels. Number 10, I have Nicholas Nickleby, the one I've most recently finished. This was Dickens' third novel. It combines like the humour we saw in Pickwick Papers with the social critique that we see in Oliver Twist. I didn't think the characters of Nicholas and his sister Kate were very well developed. I prefer Dickens' later novels to his early novels. There are some interesting characters here, and this is where we see Dickens developing these interesting characters, particularly like Wackford Squeers, the schoolmaster, and Newman Noggs, who was Nicholas's uncle Ralph's servant, who's a great character. But yeah, this is number 10. At number 9, I have The Old Curiosity Shop. This is the one with Little Nell in. It's a bit overly sentimental. I'd have also liked to see more about the Old Curiosity Shop of the title, which doesn't feature very strongly in this book. It does have an interesting theme about addiction and the problems of addiction. Number 8, I have Dickens' first novel, The Pickwick Papers. This has a lot of Dickens' characteristic humour, but it doesn't have a lot of his great characters. There is Sam Weller, who's a great character, but the other characters are not such standout characters. And there's not much plot here. It seems like a collection of vignettes of the Pickwick Club. It's very episodic in nature. Number 7. Now we're coming to the top half of my Dickens rankings. Number 7, Little Dorrit. This has got probably the best protagonist, Amy Dorrit. There's also Arthur Clenham in here, a lot of wonderful characters. A lot is set around the Marshalsea debtors' prison. Dickens was familiar with debtors' prisons as his father was imprisoned in a debtors' prison, and he had a lot to say about such debtors' prisons. Number 6, I have Dickens' 7th novel, Dombey and Son. This was the book I was reading when I started this BookTube channel, so I have a great fondness for this novel. We have a strong female character here, and there's a lot of humour, and it marked a turning point in Dickens' maturity as a writer. There's also a lot of toxic masculinity and the whole idea of Dombey and Son, that Dombey is leaving his empire to his son, not to a very worthy daughter. Number 5, Bleak House. For many, this is Dickens' masterpiece. This ranking is my own subjective feelings of how I rate these books. And I've seen Bleak House number 1 on many rankings. I enjoyed this. There's the legal battle, the Jarndyce and Jarndyce legal case that drags on and on through the courts, which Dickens was critiquing. It's got some wonderful characters. It's a great story. And as I said, some see this as Dickens' masterpiece. Number 4 might be a surprise for some of you. I have Barnaby Rudge. This is one of Dickens' early novels, but it's a lot tighter than the 3 novels that came before it. It's historic, like A Tale of Two Cities is historic. This was set at the time of the Gordon riots in England. This is Grip, Barnaby's Raven, who's a character in himself, and Barnaby Rudge, the title character, is this sort of useful idiot character who's caught up in the riots. There's a lot about intolerance. I finished this year, 2025, so it might be a recency bias that I put it so highly, but I really enjoyed this. I can't hold up my top 3 Dickens novels because I don't have them, which is a bit of a lapse on my part because these are the 3 that I might reread. I don't think I'll reread any of the others because each one is quite a tome, but these are my 3 favourite Dickens novels. Number 3, I've got Great Expectations. Great Expectations is the book that brought me back to Dickens after school put me off for many decades. I read Great Expectations in 2007. It was part of a book club pick when I was living in England. I felt at the time, oh no, we're going to be reading Dickens, but I really enjoyed it. Great Expectations is a book I'd recommend people who haven't read Dickens to begin with because it's a first-person narrative. The central character, Pip, and his relationship with Estella is a great relationship. There's some wonderful characters in it, like Miss Havisham and Magwitch. And I really enjoyed this book, and I would recommend it to anyone. It's one of Dickens' shorter books as well. Number 2, Dickens' final novel, Our Mutual Friend. I know this is Katie Lumsden's favourite, and it's a very good novel. It's easy, a 5-star read. It starts with them fishing the body out of the River Thames. The River Thames is a character in itself here. There's some other wonderful characters like Lizzie Hexam, like Jenny Wren. It's about money, it's about rubbish. There's this great dust mound. And we also have a sympathetic Jewish character, Mr. Ria. I think Dickens was making amends for the character of Fagin in his second novel, Oliver Twist. So, do you know what my number one Dickens novel is? My favourite Dickens novel? Oh, you may have noticed it from the one I haven't talked about yet. My favourite Dickens novel is David Copperfield. I love the wonderful characters in it. I love the story. It's a coming-of-age novel. David Copperfield feels like a real child when he's a child, not like Oliver Twist. And there's just so many wonderful characters. There's Steerforth. There's Micawber, who's always optimistic about everything. There's Uriah Heep, the obsequious Uriah Heep. There's Peggotty. There's Ham. There's so many wonderful characters. It's a wonderful story. I think it's maybe Dickens' longest novel in terms of the number of words written. It's everything I want in a Dickens novel. It's a great balance of humour and the social critique. And it was Charles Dickens' favourite book, from what he said himself. So that's my ranking of Dickens' completed novels. If you read Dickens novels, even if you only read some, can you put which ones are your favourites down below? You can rank them all, or you can just say this was my favourite or this was my least favourite. I'm curious to see how our rankings tally, whether we're very different or very similar. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a thumbs up. That will help me with the YouTube algorithm. And I shall see you on the next video. Goodbye.